The death of Rey Rivera, a Baltimore mystery. Imagine waking up to a quiet, normal day, only to learn that a person has fallen to their death from an office building. But the mystery doesn't end there. What if you discovered that the person had been missing for days, had a promising future, and no one could make sense of how or why this happened? This is the eerie and puzzling case of Rey Rivera, a man found dead under strange circumstances in Baltimore with no clear explanation of how he ended up there. Was it a tragic accident, a suicide, or something more sinister? The story of Rey Rivera's death has captivated true crime enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists alike for years, and today we're diving into one of the most baffling mysteries to ever unfold in Baltimore. In this video, we'll uncover the shocking details surrounding Rey Rivera's death, the strange clues that seem to point in different directions, and the theories that attempt to explain what truly happened. Get ready for a case that has more questions than answers, and a mystery that still leaves us wondering if we'll ever know the truth. Who was Rey Rivera? Before diving into the mystery itself, let's take a moment to get to know Rey Rivera, a man whose life was cut tragically short. Rey Rivera was a 32-year-old man who had moved to Baltimore with his wife Allison Rivera in search of a fresh start. Rey had a background in video production and had worked for several years at a local video production company. In fact, he had just landed a promising new job with the investment firm Alex Brown & Sons. Rey was described by those who knew him as a smart, kind, and hard-working individual with a bright future ahead. He had recently come into a phase of his life where things seemed to be falling into place. He was married to the love of his life, Allison, and was starting his new career. There was nothing to suggest that Rey would suddenly disappear or that his life would end in such a tragic, unexplained manner. The mysterious disappearance. On May 6, 2006, Rey Rivera's wife Allison woke up to find that her husband was missing. Rey had gone to bed the night before, and everything seemed normal. But by morning, Rey was nowhere to be found. His wallet, cell phone, and keys were left behind in their apartment, but there was no sign of a struggle or anything that suggested foul play. Allison quickly grew worried. She called Rey's family and friends, trying to find out if anyone knew where he had gone. There was no explanation for his sudden disappearance, and Rey's absence became a cause for concern. His family and friends began searching for him, but no one could locate Rey. Days went by without any sign of Rey. Allison, in a desperate attempt to find him, reached out to the authorities and filed a missing person report. The search began in earnest, with police conducting interviews and scouring the area. But there were still no answers. The shocking discovery: Rey Rivera's body found. 5 days after Rey went missing, on May 24, 2006, the search took an unexpected turn. A maintenance worker at the Belvedere Hotel in Baltimore was conducting his usual rounds when he noticed something unusual. A body was found in an unfinished conference room, crumpled on the floor beneath a hole in the ceiling. The body was later identified as Rey Rivera. Authorities were baffled. How did Rey's body end up in such an obscure location, especially when he was nowhere near the hotel during the time he went missing? The details of the scene: a baffling discovery. When investigators arrived at the scene, they noticed a few strange and unsettling details. The hole in the ceiling. Rey's body was found directly beneath a large hole in the ceiling of the conference room, which led to an unoccupied part of the hotel. It looked as though Rey had fallen from the top floors, but the question remained: how did he get there, and why would he fall from such a height? The location of the body, the location where Rey's body was found, made no sense. The Belvedere Hotel was not a public space that Rey would have had reason to visit, and the unfinished conference room was located in an area of the hotel that was largely used at the time. The lack of signs of injury despite falling from such a height, Rey's body didn't show the kind of serious injuries one might expect. There were no broken bones or major injuries from the fall itself, though the autopsy later showed that Rey did sustain some internal injuries. The odd circumstances of his death. The most bizarre part of the scene was the nature of Rey's death. There were no clear signs of trauma on his body, which led investigators to question whether the fall was an accident or if something else was involved. The autopsy and investigation, the mystery deepens. The autopsy report offered few answers. The official cause of death was ruled as blunt force trauma, consistent with a fall from a significant height. But the investigators were perplexed by several factors. No clear reason for the fall. There was no apparent reason for Rey to be at the Belvedere Hotel, nor did he seem to have any personal connection to the place. The hole in the ceiling appeared to be a structural feature of the building that didn't match the circumstances of a typical accident. The absence of suicide notes or signs. There were no signs that Rey had committed suicide. No notes, no indications of mental distress, and no history of depression. Those who knew him described Rey as happy, optimistic, and looking forward to his new job. This was not the behavior of someone who might take their own life. A mysterious phone call. One particularly strange clue came from a phone call made from Rey's cell phone shortly before his disappearance. A call was placed to the office of the investment firm where he had recently started working. However, the call was cut short and no one was able to speak to Rey during that time. It seemed as though he was interrupted before he could talk to anyone. The theories: was it an accident, suicide, or something more sinister? The circumstances surrounding Rey's death have led to several theories over the years. Let's break down the most popular ones. The accident theory, one of the most straightforward theories, is that Rey accidentally fell from the building while exploring. It's possible that he wandered into the hotel at night, perhaps out of curiosity, and ended up on the rooftop or in an unfinished part of the building. The hole in the ceiling could have been a dangerous oversight, but even if this was the case, it doesn't explain why Rey was there in the first place or how he managed to fall without leaving any clues of a struggle. The suicide theory. Another possibility is that Rey took his own life. However, as mentioned earlier, there was no clear evidence to suggest that Rey was suicidal. He had a promising new job, a loving wife, and a good relationship with his friends and family. Still, some believe the phone call and the strange location of his body could point to an intentional fall. The conspiracy or foul play theory. Perhaps the most unsettling theory is that Rey may have stumbled upon something sinister while working for the investment firm, something that led to his death. It's possible that the hotel, the mysterious phone call, and the hole in the ceiling were all part of a larger, hidden narrative that authorities were unable to uncover. The accidental fall due to mental confusion. Given Rey's personal history of mental health issues, some theorists wonder if Rey became confused or disoriented. If he had an episode or was under the influence of substances, he could have wandered into an area of the hotel where he got lost and accidentally fell. The aftermath, the case that remains unsolved. To this day, Rey Rivera's death remains a mystery. While there are theories about what might have happened, there is no concrete evidence to point to a definitive cause of death. The strange circumstances surrounding his disappearance and the discovery of his body have left family, friends, and investigators puzzled for nearly 2 decades. Allison Rivera, Rey's wife, has never stopped seeking answers. She believes that there was foul play involved, and the case continues to haunt her. The mystery of Rey Rivera's death has become one of Baltimore's most perplexing and widely discussed unsolved cases. Conclusion: a tragic end to a promising life. Rey Rivera's death is a case that leaves us with more questions than answers. Was it an accident, suicide, or something far more sinister? While we may never know the full truth, the mystery continues to captivate those who've followed the case over the years. Rey's life, filled with promise and potential, was tragically cut short, and his death remains an unsolved enigma.